Hi everyone, good evening. This is Alea and this is episode 2 of the Jack Canfield Success Principles sort of mini seminar share workshop thing that I'm doing because I'm so excited to share with you guys my Christmas present, which was the workshop or the workbook and all the audios and all that for the Jack Canfield Success Principles mini seminar, and it comes with a set of audio recordings um, as well as a workbook and a very thick textbook. And so I've been going through this, and I'm so sorry I missed you guys last night, but I had an appointment that I didn't know I had because I didn't write it down. So I'm getting my lessons in making sure that I have recorded everything that I'm doing so that, I can stay on purpose and I can stay on task. And that's been somewhat of an issue for me. And so I'm looking at the things that are taught in the book, because I'm not teaching you guys this. I am sharing my process with you, and I really invite you to go to successprinciples.com and get the workbook for yourself. Get the system for yourself. It's I believe the system is $99, and it has all these things in it. And all the stuff that I'm sharing with you guys, it has the workbook, it has some of the stuff that's there you can get for free, but if you actually want the audios and all of that, then you do have to pay the $99. But I am thinking that it is worth every dime because I am getting so much out of this. And the second principle is that success is a learned behavior. And he opens by telling a story about a young man who is receiving an award for his innovation in making some kind of a discovery. And the discovery is something that he has to do these experiments over and over and over again, and eventually, of course, find something that is successful and something that works. And so the newspaper reporter asked the young man, how is it that you can just keep going at this, when there's no light in sight, so to speak? And the man tells the story of how when he was a little kid, he was like 3 years old or something, and he was trying to get a bottle of milk out of the refrigerator. And he dropped the bottle and he spilled the milk. And instead of his mother reprimanding him for making a mess, she turned it into a game and, sort of taught him, on 3-year-old level about surface tension and, making patterns in the milk and all of this stuff. And then she later, told him, we have to clean this up now. And then later she took him out into the yard and she helped him to practice learning how to carry a full bottle of liquid with little 3-year-old hands. And so because of that, he was never punished for not getting it right the first time, and so he attributed that to his success of being able to just keep going at it over and over and over again until he got it right. And I think that that's something that personally I need to learn. I definitely need to learn that, because I do have a tendency to try something, and if it doesn't work, then I sometimes tell myself, oh, that's the universe telling me that I'm going the wrong way. And that may not be true. It may not be the universe telling me I'm going the wrong way. It may just be that I need to practice. I need to practice until I get it right. And so I have to remind myself that there are different aspects of whether or not the universe is talking to me or whether I'm losing confidence in me and not giving myself a chance. And so this section of the success principles, the second principle, success is a learned behavior. These are the questions I'm going to share with you guys, because if you are working along with this and you don't have the book, I can give you some of the exercises and you can play along with them and possibly get something out of it that way, even if you don't have the book. So one of the exercises that is in here is to sort of look at your life and see what your spilled milk is. You know, what was it in your life that has happened to you that may not have turned out quite the way you wanted it to, and how did you handle it? How did you deal with it? And, you know, how could it, if it was a negative outcome, then how could you have dealt with it better? And then the other exercise that he gives is to sort of take inventory of your life. And I found this one to be disturbing, because I think that I have done a lot of things in my life, and I've done quite a few things in my life, but when I go to really like take inventory, it's kind of hard. So what and I'm not going to bore you guys with what it is that what the things are that I've accomplished, but the way he makes this man is brilliant. The way that he makes this work for everybody is he tells you to divide your life into thirds. And so you have your formative years, you have your middle years, and then you have your most recent years. So you just divide your age by 3. So if you're 30 years old, then you divide it by 3, and so your formative years will be from 0 to 10, and then your middle years will be from 10 to 20, and your recent years will be from 20 to 30. And the idea is to take your successes that you've experienced during those times. So from, for example, your formative years from 0 to 10, one of mine, which I'm very proud of, was I had perfect attendance in school. I loved going to school. I loved school. I don't think there was any kid that loved school more than I did. I missed the bus once, and I cried so much my mom found somebody to take me to school, because I just really wanted to be in school. So that was one of my accomplishments, one of my successes in my formative years. And the idea is that once you've discovered what these things are, that you also make note of what lessons that you learned from these successes. So for myself, one of the lessons that I learned from having perfect attendance in school is that sometimes, well, and I can't say that because I always wanted to go to school. There was never a day that I didn't want to go to school. It was just the thing. But there were things that I didn't like in school, but I knew that even though I didn't like gym class, was the major one, I just didn't care for gym class, and now, I'm doing marathons. It's very strange to me. I watch myself doing what I do, and I look at the pictures, and I'm just like, oh my God. And I used to hide in gym class. But even though there were things about school that I didn't like, I knew that those things were just small and that they would pass, and that the stuff that I liked far outweighed the things that I didn't like. And so I never wanted to miss a day. So what that has played out for me in my now adult life is there are some things that I don't like. There's some days that I may not want to go to work. There may be a day that I don't want to do the show because I don't know what I'm going to say. Or there may be, maybe I'm like totally unprepared because I didn't do my homework, or, whatever. And that may be unpleasant. But I discovered things along the way of just being there, just showing up. The other thing that I experienced in my formative years, I won the American Wool Contest, and I have never taken one thing apart so many times in my life as I did that dress that won me that contest. I won first prize in 3 levels, but I had to take that stupid dress apart so many times, and while at the time I never wore the dress. I didn't like it because I had to take it apart so many times. But what I learned from that was that I can make things perfect if I just have the patience to do it until I get it right. So almost like this guy, except I'm not winning awards as a scientist, but similar, in that you keep doing it until you get it right. So the formative years, the first third of your life, the middle years, the second third of your life, and the most recent years is, the last third of your life to where you are now, to the present. And for each one of those, you do the what the success was and what you learned from it. And the other part that he addresses in this section of the workshop is to be clear about why you're here, and to be clear about what your purpose is. And so some of the exercises that he gives in order for us to find out what our purpose is and why we're here they're very telling. And I want to suggest to you guys, this is not something that he has out, but there's a book out that's called Start With Why. And it's a really cool book, and it plays into this, because if you start with why, according to this book, if you can start with the reason you're doing something, then everything else falls into place. And somehow it all works, because instead of going for the end result, you're going for why you're doing the end result. And sometimes the end result will change. But if you know what your why is, then you are always successful, because everything supports the reason that you're here. So one of the things that he suggests that we do in order to find out what our why is to ask ourselves some very poignant questions. And the question, I'll tell you what the exercise is. He calls it the life purpose exercise. And I found this to be really interesting, too, and I've had trouble doing it. I still haven't finished it. He says, list 2 of your unique personal qualities. And then he gives an example such as enthusiasm or creativity or whatever. So you list these 2 examples of your unique personal qualities, and then you list 1 or 2 ways that you enjoy expressing those qualities. So, for example, if you are enthusiastic and creative, and you when you interact with other people, you become supportive and you inspire others. So that would be the way that you use those qualities. And then if the world was a perfect place, if it was absolutely perfect, what would your world as a perfect world look like? How would everybody in your world, interact with everybody else in your world? And what does that feel like? And then he asked us to write the answer in a statement in present tense and describe the ultimate condition, the perfect world as you see it and feel it, and remember that the perfect world is a fun place. So, and I mean, we've heard this before, Abraham talks about creating the vortex and not to create the vortex to be someplace where you have to fix stuff. And I think that's kind of what he's saying, that, we write it as the perfect world, and remember it's a fun place. So it's not a place where, we're sitting out there doing Occupy Wall Street. It's that we've come to the end of the Occupy movement, and we've accomplished whatever it was that we wanted, and so the world actually works. And so I got the opportunity. I can jump to that really easy. I have trouble with the first two, with finding out what personal qualities that I have that are unique to me and how I use those with other people. That figuring out what the perfect world looks like, I've been looking at the perfect world since I was 5 when I started reading science fiction books. So that one, I'm all over it. But the other part is a little bit more difficult. And then he asks you to combine those 3 sub-things. So your personal qualities, how you interact with others, and what the perfect world would look like. You take those and you put it all together into a paragraph. And then he gives an example. My purpose is to use my creativity and enthusiasm to support and inspire others to freely express their talent in a harmonious and loving way. That would be an example of a life purpose statement. And what he is suggesting here is that once we have our life purpose statement, it will set the tone for everything else that we do. And I know that this works. I've done it with other things in a small way, but I've never done it as it applies to my whole life. I've done it as it applies to a project. You know, it's like you'll be doing, well, when I was doing spiritual cinema and I was creating the film festival, I said, okay, all of the films in this festival have to inspire. And the point of this is to give people the ultimate experience of sitting in a theater and watching movies one after another and then discussing them and exchanging ideas and walking away with a viewpoint that encompasses not only their own thoughts and their own feelings and their own ideas, but the ideas and thoughts and feelings of everyone else in the audience that saw the film with them, and to somehow try to figure out what the producer and the writer and the actors were trying to convey. And so once I got that, and that's like real disjointed, I actually had a sentence, but once I got that, it became really easy to choose the venue. It became really easy to figure out what films. It became really easy to pick out the time frame, the refreshments. Everything else became easy because we had this overarching purpose, the why. You know, why was I doing this? Well, I was doing this in order to have this experience of sharing all these films that I found inspiring with other people and to get their take on it. So I get how to do it on a project level. Now it's to take that project level and move it to my life. That's bigger. That's a lot bigger. And it's bigger in the sense of, I guess I need to read more because my part of me is thinking, oh, but what if it changes, you know, as if it's going to be written in stone, and that if it changes, that's a really bad thing, and then, you know, something's going to be really wrong about that. So I invite you guys to also do that, to figure out what your why is. And I also invite you to read that book because he cites Steve Jobs because, of course, that's my book right now that I'm the other book that I'm reading. And in the Start With Why, the author looks at the Apple Computer Company and compares it to the Microsoft Computer Company, which, you know, they were rivals sort of throughout the career of Steve Jobs. The difference between Apple and Microsoft, according to this guy, was that Microsoft was creating a a system to serve people, to do work. They were creating a system to serve people to do work. Steve Jobs, on the other hand, was creating a experience. He wanted to create the most wonderful, sexy, useful experience for the user. He wanted them to embody the joy of a perfectly made machine that worked perfectly and that that made them feel empowered. And so all of his products reflected this idea of creating something that enhanced your experience as opposed to being a tool. It wasn't a tool. It was something that made you feel good. And so when I look at that, and then they go on, they talk about Harley Davidson again. It's a why thing for Harley Davidson as opposed to, say, Kawasaki. That Harley Davidson, the people who ride Harleys, they tattoo Harley on their body. And he says this is a successful Y company because the people so embody it. Same thing with the Marine Corps. The people everyone so embodies it until they are ready to, commit their whole life to it. And this brings me to my final insight that I got from this lesson, and that is the commitment to your life purpose and your why once you figure out what it is. Because if we can't commit to ourselves, then how is it that we can commit to anyone else? And I don't mean to ramble here, but I might be rambling a little bit because I really do ask this question. If we can't commit to our own self and our own purpose, our own why, then how can we commit to a job? How can we commit to a project? How can we commit to a mate? How can we commit in a relationship? So the underlying purpose has to be the why. And so, he says that this process is 30 days and that you have to chip right on through it in 30 days. I'm looking at this and I can't see how I can get through this in 30 days. So it might take longer than 30 days, but the operative thing that I got from all that he said so far is that you have to be able to not stop. So as long as you are constantly working on the project, working on this, not skipping any of the lessons, not letting it lay aside for 3 or 4 days and then going back to it, as long as you are doing each day, it appears, and that you're constantly working on it, it appears that it works. And I know that I will say that for myself, today had been one of the most productive days I've had in a really long time. And I have to think that it may have a lot to do with being involved in this program and working through this program. There's so many things that I want to do this year. There's so many things that I want to accomplish. And sitting and working through this book, sitting and working through this program seems to put those things in front. It brings it up front for me so that I can get those down on paper. And as I get them down on paper and I look at the process that he has laid out, I can see how I can actually make those things happen. So I really invite you to take the time to create a program like this, to get the book, to get the workbook, the videos, the audios. Go to successprinciples.com and pick up the things and do some of the exercises that are in there. my tendency is always with these books, because I think that I know everything. So my tendency is always to try to work through it really fast, and I know what I'm doing, and nobody needs to tell me, and it's all I know it all. So my tendency has been to zip through it really fast and skim the top. And I am making myself actually study every page, to not say I know that and skim over it, but to do the exercises on each page, to contemplate them, to write them down, to spend the time thinking about what the real answer is, as opposed to, oh yeah, I get that. So I invite you guys to play along with me. The mastermind group is coming together. I've gotten a couple of emails out there, and I will be getting more out. I would love to, like I said, if any of you are listening to this and you think that you would like to be in a mastermind group, I'm still learning what Jack Canfield looks at as a mastermind group, because he has this whole other thing that is called the Golden Motorcycle Gang. And so I invite you guys to go take a look at that too. It's the Golden Motorcycle Gang. It's a book that he wrote about himself and kind of a group of people that he has put together, I believe. I have not started it yet, because the other book is huge, and I'm still working, and I'm training for the half marathon. So I got a lot on my plate, and it seems to be working. So I invite you guys to give it a try. Why not? For today, go to successprinciples.com and download all of the work papers, because it's got a full calendar there. It has a mastermind planning guide. It has a goal sheet, which I don't like the word goal, so I will call it an intention sheet. But it has all of these tools that all you have to do is print them off and do them. And I think you'll find it quite interesting to make a commitment to yourself to do something for yourself that will help you move to the next level for yourself. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. It's been a pleasure, and I intend to do this tomorrow evening. I will not schedule it until tomorrow evening. So if you want to just kind of follow along, I would suggest subscribing to the iTunes feed. Then you will see it on the iTunes as it comes up each day. The new episode will be there. Or you can follow it on Facebook, and it will post on Facebook as each episode comes up. It's also on YouTube. So there's a lot of different places to get the information. The iTunes feed is probably the most reliable, just because once you subscribe, every time you go to update, all of the episodes will come up for you. So thank you so much for joining me. I will see you guys tomorrow night, hopefully, or tomorrow sometime for the next episode. And have a fabulous 2012. It is shaping up wonderfully, and I can't emphasize enough how much it has helped me to have a project like this that would seem to take up more time, actually provide more time for me. And it seems like it would be the opposite. So thank you. Have a wonderful evening, and aloha.